Struggle! Hi guys, welcome to It's 5 o'clock somewhere, your weekly dose of Sparring DK, Q&A, and a cheeky little video that I've decided to put together for you. We've got a little bit to cover on the show today, a few questions for the Q&A. Thanks very much for leaving those comments. Make sure you're leaving some down in the comments below, and we'll get to those next week. And then I've also done another cooking episode for you, so yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. Plus, I just wanted to discuss a few other little bits and pieces. But first, let's get into the Q&A. The first question comes from ABAMCA, and he says, what was your best combined 11 from the FIFA 15 career modes, and will you be doing a relegation regen rebuild series in FIFA 16? Well, that's an interesting thought. The best combined 11 for FIFA 15. Well, I haven't finished Bradford yet, but I pretty much know the players that I'd want to take out of that. Newport County and Arsenal. All right, so up front, we definitely have to have the Majestic Prince, Traore Kone, and backing him up would definitely be Peterson, the destroyer of worlds. He has been an incredible player. Across the midfield, if you're looking at our DK formation, on the left-hand side, well, who would you have on the left-hand side? Probably Jed Stewart, the Rocket Man. In the middle, I'd probably go with Alexandre Arnos. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to go with Shane Coe. He is incredible. Even though he's a right back, he's glitched out. He's just great to play with. Then controlling the midfield. Who will we have controlling the midfield? That's a tough one. Midfield general. Who's been our midfield general? I'm not too sure on that one. It'd probably be a toss-up between Risdon's been pretty good in the Bradford series. Atkinson from Newport County, and yeah, actually I'm going to go with Lee Atkinson. I did like playing with him in the midfield. In the CDM role, I'm probably going to go with, that's another tough one. I like Roshback. He's probably not the highest rated player that we've got, and he's in our Bradford series, but he's just a solid CDM. He can just get in there and lay that tackle and does a good job. Across the back line, left back would probably be Defrel from the Bradford City series. The centre backs, I'd probably be looking at Tubbsy, and probably Toyoshima. And on the right hand side, you'd probably have to go with Kuzmanoski. And in between the sticks, I'm going to have to go with Ali Nabab. We haven't really had a standout goalkeeper in any of our series, but I'll stick with Ali Nabab. And yeah, the bench, well, fuck knows. There's that many good players. You've got Schenk, you've got Billy Knott. I mean, Billy Knott would be an amazing super sub. He can just do some amazing things. Obviously, you'd have Peterson coming off the bench. Mate, there's just so many I can't even think right now. So hopefully that sort of covers most of your questions. And as for the relegation regen rebuild, we'll just see how the Notts County series goes. I want to bring some other games to the channel. If the Notts County turns out to go okay and maybe that finishes up a little bit earlier than anticipated, I am hoping that it runs the entirety of FIFA 16, but we'll have to wait and see. I may look at doing a relegation regen rebuild series. Not sure which club, not even sure which league. But we'll see what happens. Who knows what the future installs for the channel. The next question comes from Reese O'Donnell, and he says, where do you see yourself in a year's time? Well, I don't like to put, time frames in there and know where I am in a year. I'll be 33 in a year's time, and hopefully still doing this YouTube. I love playing games, I always have. And this is definitely something that I've really grown to enjoy doing, making these videos for you guys to watch at home. So hopefully, we're still doing that. Hopefully we've built on our subscriber base, and we're pushing towards, it becoming a viable source of maybe an income. Unlikely within a year, probably a 3 to 5 year plan. Fuck knows. The channel could explode overnight. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but it all comes down to you guys helping me out, hitting those likes, leaving those comments, and just supporting whatever content we put out there. But if you're not enjoying something, make sure you're also leaving me comments and say, look, DK, this is shit. What the fuck are you doing with your life? Just stick to what you know, mate. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. The Gears Legend says, the weather's slowly improving down under. What's your favourite drink to have when having a barbecue? And what's your favourite food? Well, if I'm out the back cooking a barbie and it's a nice hot day, there's a couple of things. Obviously, you like a good beer. I don't mind a Bundaberg rum. That's an Australian rum. Goes quite nice with a nice Coke. And if it's really, really warm and like the humidity's up north of Western Australia, there's a place called Broome, and they've got their own brewery, and they brew, it's called a Matzo's ginger beer. Now, it's a ginger beer, but it's alcoholic. It's actually really refreshing on a hot day. So if you're ever in Australia, especially WA, maybe have a crack at a Matzo's ginger beer. The next question comes from Craig Andrew, and he says, if you could go to any European city, town, which one would you go to? Well, I did an extensive amount of traveling. I was over there for about 3 months. There's a lot of places I still want to visit. I really would like to go to Copenhagen in Denmark. I'd like to get to Bruges in Belgium. I didn't get to a lot of Spain, like Barcelona and places like that would be amazing. I did a lot of the UK, Scotland, Ireland, that sort of thing. So I'd still like to go back there and visit all of those places again. I'd actually like to visit St. Petersburg in Russia. I think that would be fairly interesting. And Warsaw in Poland. So quite a few places. Hopefully I get the opportunity to get over to Europe again. Maybe meet some of you guys and see some of these amazing places. The next question comes from Scott McCulkin. He says, what do you think of the ABL? And that is the Australian Baseball League. Well, when I was younger, primary, you know, that 6 years old to probably 14 or 15, I actually played T-ball, baseball, that sort of thing. That was my #1 sport. I was actually pretty decent at it. I got to a state level, and so I was fairly involved with Australian baseball at that stage. So the Perth Heat were my team. Still are my team, even if I think they changed the name a few times, gone back. It's not that big a sport as it was probably 20 years ago when I was playing. But you know, it's getting a revival. A lot of the sports are starting. You know, we've got a lot of expat Americans over here now, so those sports are starting to grow and get their own league again. Same as with our ice hockey. Not sure if we have. I think we've got like a really low gridiron football league as well. But yeah, Australian baseball, you know, it's a great place for the Americans to come in the off season, and you know, not quite the game that you'd probably have in the States. I'd love to get over there. My Chicago White Sox is the team I support. Unfortunately, they're probably not the best club, but that's the team I support, and it'd be amazing to get over there and see a game in real life. Okay, Pergamon says, I was just wondering if I was going to do a Road to Australia series again in the future. Well, probably not Road to the World Cup Australia. Obviously, the Notts County is sort of a Road to the World Cup Ivory Coast, so that's sort of interconnected with our first series on FIFA 16. I'm probably looking at doing a bit more live streaming on FIFA 16, so we may look at doing some of those kind of Road to the World Cup series. Kind of like, if you've ever watched any of my Twitch, the link is on my page. I tend to do like, we've got an Asian series where we only scout Saudi Arabia, Korea, China and Japan, and we just build a club with just that region. So I may look at doing something like that, maybe bring that to the channel, maybe leave it to live streams. I'm not too sure, but we'll see what happens. No one knows what the future is going to hold for us. And that ends the Q&A. Okay, so on the show today, I've done another little bit of a cooking presentation. I just cooked myself up a feed the other night. Thought, you know what, I like cooking this food. I'll bring it to the channel. So we're going to make pork Saltimbocca. If you don't know what that is, check this out. Hi, how you going? Today we've got another cooking show for you, and what I'm going to be making is what I call DK's pork Saltimbocca. Now you're wondering what the hell that is? You'll soon find out, but these are the key ingredients that you're going to need to prepare this meal. You're going to need some pork. Generally, if I'm cooking for a few people, I'll go and get a nice pork fillet, slice it all up, but as I'm just preparing this one for myself, I've just grabbed 4 pork medallions. Hopefully you can see that one. Also, you're going to need some prosciutto. This is like a cured, salted pork meat as well. You're going to need, this is called bocconcini. It's like a cheese, but it's really hard to describe. It melt like a normal cheese. It's actually really delicious and good for texture. And you're also going to need just a dash of some paprika. So that's the main meat dish, and we're going to be serving that with some nice green beans, and these are called cocktail potatoes. They're just little potatoes, if I can get into the fucking packet. Alright, so you've just got some nice little potatoes. So all we're going to do to start with is we've got a couple of pots over here on the hot plate. We're going to get them boiling away so we can do the potatoes and the beans, and I'll start putting together the pork saltimbocca. Alright? Okay, pork saltimbocca. So just grab your pork, get it out of its package. If you're using the fillet, just cut it up. You know, you want a thick kind of piece of pork. You're going to need 2 per saltimbocca. So I've got 4 here, so that'll make me 2 nice, delicious fucking things. Just set them off to the side. Then you're going to grab some bocconcini. I'll show you what this is. Here we go. Right, so it's just a ball of kind of cheese, kind of like a mozzarella. What I like to do to that is just slice it up into some, you know, relatively the same size pieces. And what we're going to do with that is take one of your pork fillets and just place it through the middle of it. Like so. Hopefully you can see that. I'm not too sure. I'll just lift that up there so you can see what's going on. Right, so we've got our pork and our 3 pieces of bocconcini there. Then just take your other pork fillet and whack it on top. So it's like a little sandwich. Right, so we've got 2 pork fillets and our bocconcini in between there. Next you're going to get out some of your prosciutto. Right, so we've got our prosciutto. It's just like a cured sort of ham, nice and salty. And what you need to do is actually wrap that around the 2 pieces of pork and bocconcini. Use two slices. This is just going to protect the meat, give it a little bit extra flavour. And you're sort of just making yourself like a little bit of a sandwich. And there we go. It's wrapped. It's looking delicious. Now we'll just set that down and we'll do the other one. Right, so another thing that you might like to use, I really do, is I've got a bit of a herb garden outside. Now this is called sage. It's really nice with pork. So what I tend to do is just lay a few leaves over the top of the saltimbocca. This will just give it a little bit extra flavour and woodland kick while it's cooking in the pan. If you're not really into flavour and you like things bland, don't worry about it. There'll probably be enough flavour within the meats and the cheese in itself. But just put a few little bits and pieces of sage there on the top. Right, and then I also like to just grab a couple of toothpicks and just punch it through just to hold it all together until it starts cooking. Once it starts cooking, it'll all bind together in itself. Right, so we've got 2 little pork saltimboccas, and we're going to get that pan nice and hot now and see if we can cook that up. Right, so our pan is getting fairly decently hot. I just put it on a real high heat to get it, you know, get that oil up in it, and then I turn it down to like a medium high. That water's boiling over the back there, so I'm going to add the potatoes now. Right, so those potatoes are probably going to take that 8 to 10 minutes to sort of boil away and get nice and delicious. The other pot's not boiling just yet for the beans, but that's okay. They don't take that long. That pan's nice and hot now, so I'm just going to add that saltimbocca. So take your saltimbocca, toothpick side up of course, and just add it to the pan. Get a nice bit of a sizzle going along there. Right, so our saltimbocca's in the pan. It's just going to cook away nicely. You can get a bit of a shot there. Just check the iPhone, it'll be in the top left corner. And the potatoes are in there bubbling away. Just put a little bit of salt in the water. That's alright, and the other pan's not boiling yet. So that saltimbocca is going to take a little while to cook. That pork's nice and thick. Just let it go, just keep an eye on it. You obviously don't want it to burn, but if that prosciutto starts getting a nice caramelised burn to it, that's fine. It's really there to protect the pork, if anything, and that's how we're going to do this. So while you're waiting for your pork, grab yourself a beer on the buds tonight. Yeah, straight. Alright, so just keep an eye on that pork. The joy of this is that you can actually see the side of the pork, so you sort of know get a rough idea of how the cook is going. That pork will go from a nice pink to a white, and then it'll get sort of a brown caramelized edge to it. Our beans pot is just starting to boil, and that pork's just slowly getting there. The smells coming up here is absolutely insane. Right, so you'll start getting a little bit of a white colour along the bottom fillet of the pork. That lets you know that it's probably time to give it its first turn. So what you want to do is take out those toothpicks really carefully, don't burn yourself. Don't worry too much about the sage. That's just going to hit the bottom of the pan. And we turn those over, do the same with the second one. Right, so here's how our Saltimbocca is looking. Yeah, check the little iPhone screen there. Got a nice caramelised sort of browning there to the prosciutto, which is nice. The edge of the pork there is looking pretty tasty on the top. The bottom one will start cooking through. That sage will start hitting all those juices, and all those juices will start developing around the meat. Now, don't throw any of those juices away. We're going to use them a little bit later. Right, so our pork's looking pretty good. You can usually tell the middle's about done when the cheese starts to melt. It's still a little bit pink inside, but as you let it rest, it'll cook a bit more. So it's about time to add our beans. In go the beans. They won't need too long. The potatoes are looking pretty good, and this is just about done. So we're almost ready to plate up. We've got a few little steps that I'll take you through shortly. But yeah, this one's pretty quick and easy, and it makes you look fucking professional. Right, so once you're happy with how that Saltimbocca's looking, just chuck it on a plate. Put it off to the side, cover it with a little bit of alfoil, and we'll move on to the next step. Right, so we've got our pan that our pork was cooking in. All those juices would have floated through the oil. And we're going to make a little bit of a finishing sauce here. So what I like to do is just take a little bit of handy red wine, add that into the pan. Then I just want to hit that with a sprinkle of paprika. And then I've actually diced up a little bit of the leftover prosciutto. I'm just going to throw that in there just to give it a bit of texture. The sage is in there. And just give that a stir around. Just let that sort of cook off. Then you want to add a bit of butter just to thicken it up. Right, so here's our finishing sauce. It's basically a bit of prosciutto, some butter, some red wine, a bit of paprika, the leftover sage and juices from the meat. And it just adds a nice little touch when you put it over the veggies and that sort of thing. So I like to do it, you don't have to. Completely up to you how you want to cook in the kitchen. Right, time to plate up. Take your Saltimbocca, chuck that on the plate first. Get your spuds out. Now, if you just cut these down the middle before you put them on the plate, just adds to the presentation of it all. Right, then we want to just grab our beans, well drained of course, just sitting on the side nicely. You've got to have a few veggies there, of course. Don't want to just be a carnivore meat eater. Right, and then we just grab our little bits of prosciutto and sauce and just flick them over the top like that nicely. Just get some nice little crunchy bits. Just give it a bit of a whack. If you need more sauce, just give it more red wine, more butter, just depending how much you want. And then last thing I like to do is just get a bit more butter out and just put it on top of those potatoes, a little bit more on the beans. Get in there. And that's it, pork Saltimbocca. Give you a nice little close-up now. So there we have pork Saltimbocca. Right, so that's pork Saltimbocca, a relatively easy dish. You know, a little bit fiddly, but it looks really great on a plate if you're trying to impress someone, and it is tasty as well. So have a crack at that one. If you do, make sure you get on the Twitter and post me some pictures. Now that just about wraps up this show, but I do have some other things I want to bring. There's a horror game out. I think it's called Until Dawn or something like that. I've been looking at that, maybe bring that to the channel. And I've also gone out and got NHL 16, so I'm going to have a bit of a play with that in the background, see if I can come up with some sort of series to bring to the channel, maybe once or twice a week. I'm not too sure. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, FIFA 16 is our main objective, but I'd like to, you know, branch out. I want to see if it's possible to bring some of these youth-style stories to other games. So first crack will be NHL 16. I'm not sure how far that away. It could be this week. It could be next week. Obviously, FIFA 16 is out this Thursday. So that is probably my main, you know, looking forward. That's what I need to concentrate on. But once I get that up and running and we're in full effect, I may start, you know, throwing a bit of NHL in there. And we've also got the Bradford City series to finish off. I'm not going to leave you hanging on that one. We're going to get to that World Cup and see what happens. As soon as we get knocked out, that's going to be the end of the series. So that'll intertwine. We've got FIFA 16 coming on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for Notts County. I may throw an extra one in every now and then. Just see how I'm going for content and time and that sort of thing. But I'm just hoping to build this channel with you guys. So thanks very much for watching. Make sure you're leaving those comments for the Q&A next week. And we'll see you next time. I'm Sparring DK. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Go have a beer. And you have a good one.